Hi, everybody. Oh, look at my Valentines that just showed up today. I want you to tell me, who is the nicest person in your family?
Mom or dad?
She came through. Do you know how your parents met?
No.
How did your parents meet, Bella?
They met when they were in college. And then they went, hello.
My mom was eating lunch at the cafeteria.
And Dad said, look at this pretty girl in pink.
Yep. And that was the end of it.
That was the end of it.
At what age do you think a kid should be allowed to have their own cell phone?
Probably 10 or 11.
Probably like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
11.
Like going to 6th grade, probably.
Oh my gosh, like maybe 8th grade.
Colin, where did babies come from?
My mom's told me. Aunt Tommy. God.
Couldn't script that one better. Good job, parents. Yep. Did your parents ever talk to you about sex? Did you ever have the talk?
My dad did. Not my mom. She'd always
On
say,
a
"Get
scale
out."
of 1 to 10, how well do you think you did? Did your parents ever give you the birds and the bees talk like they were supposed to?
What's that?
When you're on your way home, you ask your parents, where are the birds and the bees?
This is
I'm
the
doing you a
best
favor,
child.
parents.
Parenting humans can be unpredictable. I mean, have you ever noticed that? In my own parenting, there have been some moments that I just didn't see coming. Like, for example, I still remember when my two oldest were about the ages of 4 and 2, and we were getting ready for bed one night. I was walking down the hall in our house, and I happened to look into the bathroom and notice that my son was going to the bathroom while my daughter was sitting on the potty. I just didn't anticipate that I was gonna have to stare eyeball to eyeball with another human being and have the conversation that went, hey bud, in our house, we use the potty one at a time. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes in most families. Or maybe there was another time I didn't see coming when we were sitting around the table and my son just started reciting the Lord's Prayer. And I didn't even know that he knew the Lord's Prayer. And all of a sudden, as a mom, I thought, this is a moment. I should do something. I should commemorate this. We should talk about it. But I just didn't see that it was coming. Or there was another moment in our home when I thought my kids were taking a nap. And if you've ever had kids in the preschool years or early elementary years and you thought that they might be napping and you just get them in their room and you think you're maybe gonna have a moment of silence or quiet, it was one of those moments, and I had closed the doors to my own room, gone and laid down for just a minute, and suddenly I heard voices outside. They started getting a little bit louder. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go out of the room, I'm gonna walk down the stairs, and I'm gonna tell them, get back in bed, why are you awake? So I get up to do just that, and as I come down the stairs, I realize that my son has cut his sister's hair off. It was completely gone, laying on the floor all around her as she looked up at me and smiled, because that's what second children do, as if the best thing had happened to her. And that was the moment when I realized I was not going to be the best representation of God's love for my children. God's love is unconditional. My love, it turns out, has limits. And one of those is your sister's hair. If you think about your own family, you might have to admit there are probably some things that caught you off guard. That's just because as parents, we don't anticipate what we don't anticipate. While humans are unpredictable and there will always be some things you don't anticipate, there are also a few things that you probably can anticipate. I mean, think about it this way. Over 100 billion people have lived and died on planet Earth, which means that by now, we have about 100 billion history lessons to teach us some of the things that will probably happen as a kid grows up. So here's what anticipating means. Anticipating is looking ahead at what will probably happen and getting ready for it. Like recognizing that your toddler is probably going to go through potty training, or that your kindergartner might lose a first tooth, or that your kid will probably sooner rather than later begin to beg you for a cell phone. There are some things that if we pause and think about it, we would probably do a better job of anticipating. So why don't we? I mean, here's my guess. I think most of us as parents fail to anticipate for two reasons. Life is busy and life is loud. I mean, life is busy is just another way of saying you probably have more on your plate than just simply parenting an 11-year-old. You might be someone's boss or someone's employee or someone's daughter, sister, brother, uncle, friend. In my own parenting, I often find that it's easy for me to begin focusing on maybe my 8-year-old and forget that over here my 5-year-old is growing up. And when I say that life is loud, that just means there are multiple voices, all trying to get your attention as a parent. Everybody knows that they need your cooperation in order to influence your child. So, you have messages from the pediatrician, the coach, the pastor, a teacher, grandparents, news articles, social media. It can seem like everyone everywhere is trying to get your attention. And if you're not careful, you can spend so much time trying to keep up that you fail to pause and anticipate some of the things that you might know are coming for your kid. Here's the problem. There's simply too much at stake not to anticipate some things. I'm going to share some statistics with you that we came across in our phase research. These aren't intended to scare you, but simply to lean in for a minute and be honest about what's really going on in our kids' lives. I mean, think about this. 38% of middle school boys report using protein supplements. Now, maybe that's not your kid, but what does that tell you about the world our kids are growing up in and the pressure they're under to look a certain way? Or how about this one? 17% of high schoolers drink, smoke, or use drugs during the school day. Again, you might simply be sighing a deep sigh of relief that your kid isn't doing those things, or maybe that they just aren't in high school yet. But what does this show us about the level of stress that many of our teenagers feel? 14 is the average age when a kid begins cutting. 61% of 18-year-olds report being sexually active. 43% of children have used social media to message a stranger. Now that might make you feel a little bit of fear, but anticipating doesn't mean we live in fear. Actually, anticipating the kind of things our kids are likely to come up against can actually alleviate some fear. A few years ago, we began to work on a concept we called a life map. We apply this concept to a few critical issues when it comes to parenting, and the idea is pretty simple. To create a life map, you identify a critical issue, determine what you want to ultimately be true one day when your kid grows up and leaves your home, and then you map out steps at every phase that move your child closer to that destination. As an example, in each one of our 18 phase guides, we chose 4 critical issues that we know every parent is concerned about for their children: health, sex, technology, and faith. Then, we imagined what most parents would ultimately want to be true for their children in each of these areas. For health, we said most parents would want their kids to have healthy habits, which we define this way: learning to strengthen my body through exercise, nutrition, and self-advocacy. When it came to sex, we said most parents would say they want their kid to grow up with sexual integrity, which we define as guarding my potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. And when it comes to mobile devices, doesn't every parent want their kid to have technological responsibility? I mean, we all want our kids to know how to leverage the potential of online experiences to enhance their offline community and success. We'll talk more about faith in the next session, but for now, here's the thing that matters. If you haven't imagined the end, if you haven't ever thought about what you want to ultimately be true for your kid, then you'll always have a reactive approach to parenting. Here's another way to say that. Without a clear destination, you tend to only focus on right now. You tend to react to the moment at hand. When something comes up that you weren't expecting, maybe you find yourself searching frantically through the first Google website and holding your phone under the table while you try to have a conversation with your teenager, hoping they won't notice. I mean, without a clear destination, you also tend to do whatever makes your kids happy. I know with younger kids, I certainly use this approach a lot. I mean, I just know that if we're on the road and the baby starts crying in her car seat and the middle child will start to whine about the crying and then the oldest will start shouting at me because I'm not making the younger kids get quiet. So I just pass them all a bag of Skittles. Another thing that happens is that without a clear destination, you tend to fear what you can't control. These are the moments when you get your children to bed and you go to your room and things are quiet. And it's the time of day right before you fall asleep, and there's this little voice in your head that begins to wonder, am I messing this up? Am I really doing what I should be doing? When you imagine the end, you begin to see things differently. When you know what you ultimately want to be true in your kid's life, it will help you stay focused, prioritize your efforts, and maintain perspective. Each phase will have unique challenges and opportunities when it comes to helping your kids grow with healthy habits, sexual integrity, and technological responsibility. That's why we put together conversation guides for every phase. Each guide is a way of scripting the kind of things you should probably talk about with your kid at each phase. Whenever I talk through the conversation guides, I get this one question. What if it's too late? What if I'm hearing this for the first time and my kid's an 11th grader? I mean, I tend to say, that's too bad. I mean, you've messed this kid up. Maybe just have another one and start over. I'm just kidding. You can always start at any point. The point of the map isn't where you start, it's where you're headed. You have to start where you are. And there are two more things to remember as you have important conversations in your home. Every kid is unique, and life is unpredictable. There has never been another child like yours, so the conversations you have with your kid will also be one of a kind, and that's okay. You're probably the best judge of what your kid needs to hear and when they need to hear it. And life really is unpredictable. As parents, we simply cannot control the choices our kids make or the things that happen to or around our children. That's why a life map isn't a step-by-step guide to guarantee your child will turn out a certain way or have a specific outcome. It's just a way of reorienting your parenting every year to talk about the things that matter in a way that moves your kid toward a better future. You might think about it this way. If you keep the end in mind and you know where you are now, you can always do something that will lead a kid in a better direction.